Good morning, everyone. I have to run at 9 o'clock. I apologize. I noted in the chat. So let's now today focus on what I like to call the foilless Pesach kitchen. No foil. I do not like tin foil, and I don't think anyone else does. So let's try to discuss how you could set up your kitchen in a way that will not need any foil, and hopefully as stressless as well as not only foilless, but stressless as possible. Okay, so let's jump in. Let's start with the stovetops. Okay, so let's start with the stovetops and talk about kashering stovetops. Okay, so again, we're going to focus on kashering today and kashering only. When it comes to a stovetop, when it comes to any kashering, with one exception, which we'll talk about later today, you typically you cannot use anything you're going to be kashering for 24 hours prior. Okay, really what this means, you can't use anything you're kashering with anything hot for 24 hours prior, but as a general rule, we try to avoid using it at all for 24 hours. Okay, so if you want to kasher your sink, you want to kasher your countertop, you want to kasher your forks, whatever it is you're going to be kashering, do not use it for 24 hours. Okay, that's number one that you have to know. Okay, so with your stovetop, let's start there. You want to clean it thoroughly. Okay, so whenever you're going to kasher something, the reason for that is that if you're not cleaning it thoroughly, then you may have kashered everything else, but the stuff that's there is still chametzik. So it's not like you can't kasher chametz, you can't pour boiling hot water over bread and say, goes for Pesach. No, so if there's chametz still in your oven, then you have a problem. So you need to really scrub it clean to ensure there's no waste there, there's no dirt there, and wait for 24 hours. Okay, now let's go through the different types of stovetops. So if you have an electric stovetop, by electric I mean one with like coils, right? So those are, you don't see those models as often nowadays. They were much more popular back in the day. I don't know why they stopped making them, but but those, sorry, they're awful? Okay, I don't know. I grew up with one of those. I don't remember. Okay, so the bottom line is what you need to do is you clean the burners very well. You wait 24 hours, and then you turn them on until they glow red, and boom, they are kosher. Now, that's the burners. I'm not talking about ones, okay, I'm not talking about gas, I'm not talking about glass, I'm talking about the ones that are stuck. The ones that are just elevated, usually there's porcelain in between. So the challenge is the area in between. That is basically impossible to kasher. So what you could do in those two possibilities, one, which I don't recommend, but take a blowtorch and blowtorch a little bit in between your burners, and that would be a little, that would kasher it. I don't recommend it. Alternatively, you put some foil down in between. This would be the one foil case, but anyone here have electric stovetop? Didn't think so. Okay, fine. So we're just going to move on. But the bottom line is you can put some foil. You want to make sure, so if anyone listening, if you have one of these stovetops, you put foil in between. Do not cover the vents. Covering the vents is a big no-no. That could cause a fire. The vents are there because ventilation is needed from the oven. Don't cover the vents. Okay, fine. Let's move on to the two types of ovens, which I imagine we all have, and those are either a gas stovetop and a glass stovetop, right? So am I missing anything? Yeah, glass and gas. Let's start with gas. Okay, so the main thing that has to be kashered is really the grates. The grates is what comes into contact with food. Everything else, even what are they called? There's a term for it. The burner pan, the caps. You know what I'm talking about? The gasket. The gasket, I think, is the thing underneath. That's like the pan. Both those things. But you're right. The gasket, which is the pan, and the cap, which goes on top of the, I don't know, if you take that off, your gas, it won't turn into a fire. I don't know how it works. But basically, there's like that little black disc where if you have a gas stove top, that does not need to be kashered, okay? The pan does not need to be kashered. You want to clean all those things thoroughly. The primary reason for that is that we treat it as if it's being self-kashered as you use it, because it's sitting there in the flame, it's sitting there in the fire, and therefore anything that's falling there, it never even became like treif because it's just being kashered on its own. The main thing you have to be kashering are the grates, okay? So when it comes to the grates, what you want to do is as follows. You could, ideally, you kasher them the same way you kasher your oven. Okay, and so when you kasher your oven, which we'll get to soon, how you turn it on, what you put it on, but you want to put, the ideal thing to do, the simplest thing to do, I would say, is take those grates off and put them in your oven when you kasher your oven. Okay, and they'll have the same parameters as to how you kasher the oven. Now, big caveat, if you put, they could get ruined. In other words, they're not meant to go into an oven, okay? So I'll be the first to tell you, so depends on what it is. It's possible it gets a little discolored when you kasher it in the oven, and so therefore some people don't want to kasher it that way. My personal experience is that most time they don't. I had a what are they called? Is it a girdle? The thing in the middle where they griddle. Thank you. That makes more sense. Okay, girdle is something else. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Boker Tov. Oh, what's it called? I've only had one coffee. Okay, so what's it called? The point is that the griddle and the stove and the grates, I put them all in the oven for a self-clean cycle. The grates came out just fine. The griddle did not come out okay. It just got discolored, and that's that. Okay, so I'm just warning you. So what you could do with your grates is you could kosher them with hagala. Okay, so you could clean them well. You could pour boiling hot water over every part of the surface, and that would also be a sufficient way of koshering them. Again, ideally, I would recommend putting them in the oven. Yeah.
Okay, so I almost had to buy a new oven last year, not that we were able to fix it, but I was told by the oven salesman that the new self-clean ovens aren't really meant to be self-clean. Like they actually break when you self-clean with them.
Well, that's a bad
Yeah.
idea.
Like they're there, but no one actually ever uses them, and that your electronics. So have you heard of this from anybody that their self-clean oven died after they self-cleaned it?
Really?
Speak to Town Appliance. They're the front place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said basically they love Pesach. They love Pesach.
Because everyone needs a new oven?
New everything. Yeah, it's great. So
self-clean ovens now
These
are not meant to.
aren't actually meant to withstand. I think the electronics part or something like this.
I got an oven 4 years ago, and we've been self-cleaning every Pesach.
But-
From Town and Country, from
Yeah,
Town Appliance.
meaning is it's possible it will work. It's not meant to be used on the regular.
Fascinating.
Well, on the regular means what? I mean,
we're doing it once a year.
Right,
Yes.
but
Okay.
meaning is it's right.
Okay, you've been warned. I don't know what to tell you. What a ridiculous feature. Why would you feature something which can't be used? Okay.
Anything you've purchased recently will break no matter what.
Yes, correct. Things don't last more than 5-10 years these days,
can you
maximum.
use a blowtorch for the grapes?
So, yes, you can use a blowtorch. In general, using a blowtorch, it's just important to know that, it's like my kids do this here at the Havdalah candle. It drives everyone crazy. The Havdalah candle, they put their finger through, right? You can put your finger, right? You have a fire and you put your finger through the fire for a second. What happens to your finger? Nothing, right? So with a blowtorch, some people go like, oh, blowtorch. You see these videos, people like, here's your kosher kitchen, 3 seconds. They walk through the thing with a blowtorch in 3 seconds. You can put your hand through that, nothing will happen. Okay, I don't recommend it at all. But you need it to really last there for a little while, and that's why I don't know how to use a blowtorch. Like I have no idea like how long. Okay, yeah, fine. Your husband might. Mr. Toza is going to be going around to everyone's house who wants to use a blowtorch. Okay, just kidding. What's it called? But the point is that it's tricky. It's tricky because you need to really leave it there long enough that it really generates some heat and it gets really hot, and you don't want to get too hot to start burning things. I don't know. I personally, I don't recommend it because I have no idea how to give anyone any guidance in doing it in a normal fashion. But theoretically, yes, a blowtorch would work over there.
But, okay, doesn't the VOD say that you can put pots on it and you turn on the thing and wait until they get hot or something like that?
Pots on the grates
On the grates.
and then allow the water to boil over
No, and heat them. Like, turn them on.
to kasher the grates.
Yeah.
You're saying cover the grates all across?
Yeah, cover the grates and turn them on. Leave it on the hottest you can for like an hour or something.
You'd have to cover it entirely, like put a blech on it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work.
That's
That would work if you could get it to that heat. Yeah.
Turn on the highest heat. And leave
I
it
don't
for,
see any of the modern, like Starcase CRC, OU do not suggest that. Why wouldn't that be? It would work. Clean it really well.
I think
Put a
that's what we've always
put
done.
a put a blech on top of it. I don't even have, okay, for those who have a blech still, like a metal sheet blech,
That's what I do.
put it on top, put it on the highest setting for a while,
like
for
red
45
hot,
minutes
so
till it gets
like
red hot. Yeah.
45
That would be
minutes
fine.
and
Okay, so we'll add another option. So 3 options. See 3 options. Okay, one is you put your grates into the oven when you kosher your oven. Okay, and we'll talk about how to kosher your oven. Again, you want to clean it really well, and then you then you put it into your oven when you kosher your oven. B, you could clean it really well, pour boiling water. Okay. C, you could do this. This sounds fine, and basically clean it really well. Again, all these things don't use for 24 hours. Place a metal sheet over the entire thing together, like a blech, like a metal sheet blech, and then crank it up, and then leave it there for for a while. Leave it there for 45 minutes to be safe, or whatever it is. Just to be safe, leave it 45 minutes. It'll definitely get hot enough by that time, and your grates will be kosher. Now, there are those who say you should then go ahead and place tinfoil over everything except where the fire is coming out of any of the vents. It's not necessary. It's not absolutely necessary. As long as everything is clean, you do not need to put foil over there. Done. Okay? So that is your gas stovetop. Again, you clean everything really well. The grates need to be koshered, either by putting them in the oven when you kosher the oven, either by pouring boiling hot water over the surface, or you can do this approach where you take a metal sheet and place it over it, crank it up for 45 minutes, and it will be kosher. Good? Okay. Now, glass stovetop, what do you do over there? So this is a big machlokas. You cannot cover your glass stovetop. You will crack your glass stovetop and go back to the oven store and get a new oven like everyone else's. So do not cover the entire glass stovetop. They say it is a really bad idea. The heat needs to escape from some places. So some people historically tried covering the whole thing, tinfoil, or literally covering the entire glass. That apparently is not a good idea. It's not good for it'll break apparently. What you could do, and again, this is a matter of debate, but what you could do is crank up, put all the burners on, full heat, 15, 20 minutes till they're red hot. It doesn't take that long. It should take less time. Just put them for 20 minutes to be safe. And then to be safe, here's where it gets tricky. You can't really kasher the space in between the elements. And it's a little hard because, the fun part of a glass stovetop is that you have your pot and things can move easily. Now, on Pesach especially, since you weren't able to kasher the space in between, what do you do with the space in between? So really on Pesach, you don't want to use the space in between whatsoever. Ideally, in addition to putting the elements on, you should do iroi. You should pour hot water over it. It's going to sizzle. It's going to make funny noises. It won't break. They're meant to be able to withstand boiling hot water. So in addition to putting the elements on, you should pour boiling hot water, over the whole stovetop just to be safe. And then still try very hard to make sure that your pot does not go onto the non-element part of your stovetop. Okay? Not always so easy. They do have these cool little things which are inserts of some sort which go on, I forgot exactly how they work. They sell them in one of these A to Z, and they either elevate on top in a safe way so you could still use the heat but it doesn't cover it entirely. I forgot exactly, but there is some form of cover that could be put on top of your glass stovetop, which is tried, tested, and true. I forgot exactly what it looks like. I know my mother bought it. You don't even have to, if it's fully covering your stovetop, you don't even have to kasher it. Again, I don't remember what it looks like, but there is some form of a cover which is breathable, which you could put on top of your stovetop. Yes?
To clarify, do you have to do iroi while the stovetop is on? Or
You don't have to.
it's off?
It's off, then you could do it. Yeah. Okay, does that make sense? Again, just turn them on and then pour boiling water over the whole thing. Good to go for Pesach. Still try to make sure that your pots and stuff don't go off the elements. Good? No foil. Okay, buttons, knobs. So some go ahead and say, listen, they're very hard to clean out. Over there, the issue is that they're dirty, and they're filthy, by the way. I don't care how clean your kitchen is. Those buttons, you pull them out for a second, it is gross. The buttons themselves are oftentimes gross. Understandably so. You're cooking, your hands are dirty, so you want to clean them very, very thoroughly. You want to also make sure that when the buttons themselves, there's a lot of guck over there, and that guck is chametz. So we talked about this earlier, especially in the kitchen. A drop of chametz falling into your food on Pesach is forbidden. So it is our responsibility to clean those areas very, very thoroughly. You do not need to put foil on them. You could if you want, but just clean them very, very, very well. The button area, as well as the knobs. You want to clean them very well, as long as you can, and take off the knob because there's stuff over there which is open, which could fall out, and so you want to clean those areas very, very well. Good? No.
Get new ones also.
If you want.
Very cheap.
No, it doesn't even, I don't even think it helps because the issue isn't so much the knob. The knob is dirty. That's, I find, easier to clean. It's my job. But it's the area behind the knob, which is on that metal rod, which is actually the area which is the hardest to clean. So you could get new knobs, but you still want to make sure that area, which is really open, is really clean well. Yeah.
You can just strip them with a very strong person if you can't get it.
Yeah, so in general, right, we have a general rule. We have a general rule that you could go ahead and, easy off, use these, basically anytime we can't clean, we've tried, and we still can't clean it, we use a, what's the word, coarse, there's a stronger, what is it? Abrasive, yeah. Caustic? Is that caustic? Like a caustic cleaner. So it's invalidates any of the food. In other words, once you've used a caustic cleaner, if you use just the regular soap dish that you use, soap, that's edible. Okay, you don't want to eat it, but that doesn't do it. But putting a caustic cleaner, it makes it completely invalid, and therefore, worst case scenario, that would work. So again, you want to try cleaning as well as possible, but your last resort, you go ahead and use a caustic cleaner, and then that's okay. Okay, so now your stovetop is kosher. Before we get to the oven, let's talk about dishwashers and microwaves. So with both those things, it really touches upon two issues with dishwashers and microwaves. First of all, they're very hard to clean. Right? Microwaves, things splatter from time to time. So even if it's a sparkling clean microwave, and you start looking at the grates of your microwave, not the grates, the vents of your microwave, it's not always so clean, and understandably so. Again, doesn't mean you're a dirty person. It's just that things splatter, and it's very, very hard to clean them. Dishwashers especially, they have those the trap on the bottom, and they trap stuff. They trap a lot of gunk, so it's a little bit hard to clean it. Forget even koshering it. That's one issue. The second issue is, can you kosher plastic? Okay, because both of them are, can you kosher things which are not metal, and both those things involve koshering some level of plastic. So for those reasons, both those reasons, many people, especially specifically on Pesach, will recommend not koshering a dishwasher and not koshering a microwave. If a person wants to kosher those things, there is certainly what to rely upon. I have to run at 9, so I'm going to hold off. Maybe if we have time, I'll come back to koshering them. But ideally, I would recommend not. There is what to rely upon to go ahead and kosher those things. Again, it's going to take a lot of cleaning, but there is what to do. If we have time, we'll come back to that. Okay,
I think there's a distinction between a regular microwave and a microwave convection oven.
In what sense?
I don't know, but I was told that you can't kosher microwave convection, but you can kosher microwave.
What? Okay, I don't know enough about how they work differently. Is it because it doesn't come to a certain
It's
heat?
not written.
Okay.
Like Rabbi convections, I think.
Okay, I'm going to look into that a little more. In general, if possible, to avoid, again, if a person, the way they generally eat is they need the microwave, they need the dishwasher, it's very hard for them to clean dishes, etc. Okay, so whatever, there's what to rely upon, and we could talk about that either after the class, another time, or if I have a moment after the class. So ovens, let's talk about ovens. How do you clean how do you kosher the inside of the oven? Okay, so here there are two methods. One is, there's an important principle, and that is that there's different levels of what we call libun. Libun is basically you're going ahead and you're koshering things through heat. Okay. Now there's libun kal, which is like a lower temperature, and then there's libun gomer, which means like complete. Kal means light, gomer means like absolute. Okay, so if you bring something to, I think it's like 800 degrees, then that's called libun gomer, and that is like the like ideal of koshering. And when you kosher with libun gomer on that very, very high level, you don't have to wait 24 hours. You don't have to worry about dirt, because it's so hot that anything there is incinerated. Like whatever you see left over, we call those ashes, right? In other words, if you ever used a self-clean oven, and it didn't break, or it did, and you see there's stuff sometimes at the bottom, those are ashes, right? Those are ashes that are from the residue. Okay, so if you have a self-clean oven and you're willing to, despite Yael's warning, you're willing to risk it. So I don't know, I've used my self-clean oven. It's a pretty new oven. I've used self-clean cycle every year, and then the perk is, by the door, they say by the door, there's like a little bit of like a mesh. It's not. Sorry? Gasket, thank you. So that part of the door, they say, doesn't get so hot, so hot. So you want to clean it, which is a little bit hard to clean because it's really like it traps things there. But you want to clean around that area as well as you can. But the oven itself, you don't have to go into the oven and scrub or anything. The oven itself, you go ahead, you close it. You could put, again, if you want, you could put the grates of your stovetop into it if you want, and then you put it on a self-clean. And voila, when the self-clean is over, since the self-clean goes to those very, very high temperatures, by the time it's over, your oven is 100% kosher. You do not have to wait 24 hours in such a case because of the fact that it reaches that high temperature. You don't have to clean it other than around the door. You just leave it as dirty as you want, and it is 100% kosher after that cycle. Now, either A, you don't have a self-clean, or B, now you're worried about using a self-clean, not a problem. What you do is you need to clean your oven thoroughly. Not so easy, but you need to clean your oven thoroughly. When there are spots, when there are areas which are not easy to clean, so you try a couple of times, and then you use a caustic cleaner like not Easy Off. What's the one? Easy Off, is that it? Yeah. I'm thinking of Google. Yeah, Easy Off is the right one. Yes, Easy Off is those are like your two favorite things in cleaning. But Easy Off you can use, which has like as a caustic cleaner. If it still doesn't come off, and follow the instructions. You spray it, like you leave it, and then you spritz it, and then you scrub it. It's like they have like you want it to sit on the stain. But after you've cleaned it as well as possible, then what you do is you put your oven on to the highest settings. Let's say broil, and you leave it there for 45 minutes, and your oven is kosher. Okay? Yes. Yes. So anytime it's not, the only thing you do not have to leave for 24 hours before is self-clean. Everything else, you'd have to, thank you for clarifying, you'd have to leave for 24, and not use for 24 hours before, okay? And then you put on, then you put it on the highest setting at the highest setting. And here too, again, you could take your grates. If that's the way you're koshering your oven, take your grates, right? And here, the chance of them getting really ruined is far less. It's only in the oven for 45 minutes. Again, not taking any guarantee, I'm not guaranteeing they won't get discolored in any way, but probably less so. You clean your grates before, wait 24 hours, you can put them in the oven and they can kosher all at the same time. Good? Great? Fantastic. Fine. Let's talk about your fridge. How do you kasher your fridge? You don't. There is no need to kasher your fridge at all. Why? Because a fridge only has cold items. The only way things become chametzik is if either you're looking for actual chametz, so of course you have to clean your fridge really well, right? Because things spill in your fridge. That's normal, right? So you want to clean it to make sure there's no chametz, but your fridge is not chametzik. It might be dirty, but it doesn't have any chametz absorbed into the walls or into the trays of your fridge. So all you have to do is clean it really well. Many people are at a stringency, an understandable one, where they put some form of a lining on the bottom of the fridge. It could be paper thin. The point is, since it's hard to clean the fridge, and certainly place the fridge where things come into direct contact. So, for example, like if you place your fruit in those drawers in the bottom. Now, fruit, of course, are not chametzik. The problem is, since they're on the bottom of most fridges, then the stuff that falls through, right? There's little cracks. So sometimes you look on the bottom of your apple, your fruit drawer or your vegetable drawer. There'll be some chametz there. There'll be some stuff that may have fallen in, or some liquids that spilled, or whatever it is. They'll drip to the lowest place. So you want to clean it out. Of course, you have to clean it out really well. Places where food comes into direct contact, there I would highly recommend covering those places, or on Pesach being careful to keep things in their bags. I don't know if you want to do that. It doesn't, it gets in the way of the freshness. But the bottom line is that things which food comes directly into, you certainly want to cover. Other things you don't have to cover. It's a nice minhag that people cover their entire fridge. Okay? Fine. Warming drawers, generally speaking, hard to kasher. If a person wants to kasher, again, I'm happy to speak about how to do so. Excuse me, but they're a little bit hard to kasher. Countertops. Okay, let's talk about countertops. So you have really two options. One is you can just simply cover your countertops, okay? And you could, as long as you cover it with something that is thick enough that if any moisture falls through, then it's not going to go. There's not going to be like any hot moisture touching both your counter and the food or whatever the pot that you have on top of the counter. So theoretically, you just put like a hard piece of cardboard, but most people don't want to do that. So the best thing to do is something that's waterproof. So use what's it called? That someone knows the word. The white stuff. No. Like the cover, they have the padding that they.
The plastic.
Hard plastic, corrugated plastic. There we go. Thank you so much. Yes. So you get corrugated plastic and cover your countertops, and you're good to go. No kashering needed. You just want to make sure it covers all the places. If, like some of us, we don't like the way that looks, because again, we want a foilless and plasticless kitchen. We want our kitchen to look just like it looks all year long. So then the other way to kasher it is through what we call irui, which means pouring hot water over the whole surface. Now, we don't just mean hot water. It needs to be water that came to a boil. Okay, so you have the best thing to do is take a kettle and bring the water to a boil. Sorry, I just want to make sure my phone is not. Yeah, good. You bring the water to a boil in a kettle, and then you go ahead and you pour it over the surfaces. Okay. Now you want to make sure it's not enough that you have to make sure that touching every part of the surface. So you could assume that your regular stream is like about the size of your thumb. In other words, even though like the initial. Thank you. The initial drop of the water and its initial movement is about this wide, and therefore what you want to do is again so you go over back and forth, going back and forth. Sometimes you need a few kettles. You want to put hot towels out to capture it. You want to be careful. You have a lot of boiling water, but that would be the simplest way to kasher the counters. There is another approach, which is that you could historically, people have asked a lot about steamers. Steamers, they blow steam. They're very hard to get the steamer to get to the right heat. I've actually, at one point, was telling people to use steamers because I heard that you could. And I bought a steamer, and I started using a steamer. And then I'm like, it's all hot. It has all the steam. And you touch it immediately. You could touch it. It's not hot. It's not hot. You have an industrial steamer might be different. And even still, you want to make sure that it's really sitting on each section for long enough. So I would not encourage using steamers at all. But what you could do is you could take a little bit less hot, instead of pouring hot water all over, what you could do is pour a little bits of hot water and then take an iron, and then hold it over each section. Okay, it just involves less water. Some people don't like doing this because it means there's a plugged-in thing right over there. But you understand? In other words, you're pouring a little bit of hot water. Okay, so you still want hot water. It doesn't have to be boiling hot water, but you pour hot water, and then you take an iron and you feel it. It's going to start bubbling under you, right? You basically go over the whole thing. So slowly but surely go over the whole thing. Make sure there's water under it. Pouring some hot water, but and using that iron going over the whole thing. Okay, some people may feel that's not so safe. Do it cautiously. Yes.
You didn't mention the material of the countertop.
I did mention the material of the counterpot. Okay, let's do that. Thank you. So, according to all opinions, you could kasher granite. not granite composite, but granites, marble, stainless steel, or metals. Those could be kashered in this fashion. I do want to mention that the CRC, which is certainly a reliable source, is of the opinion that you are also allowed to kasher laminates, plastic laminates, because again, as I mentioned, there's a big debate about are you allowed to kasher plastic in general? So just let's go on a quick little sidebar. In Israel, almost nobody kashers plastic. The general consensus of the Israeli authorities is no one kashers plastic year-round. In America, I would tell you that most poskim kasher would say if you have, a spatula that became tray for whatever, you used it for meat, milk, you could kasher it during the year. Many would be stringent on Pesach, okay? But even still on Pesach, you have CRC and others who say, no, you can kasher plastic, and that's why they allow you kashering plastic laminates even on Pesach, okay? So 3 opinions. Either A, no kashering plastic at all, okay? B, year-round, yes. Pesach, we're going to be strict, no. And those who say even on Pesach, you could kasher it. And therefore, many would, only would kasher granites, etc., and those other surfaces I mentioned, but there are those who would allow plastic laminates as well. Okay?
Does, what's that composite called? It looks like granite, but it's not.
Well, there's granite composite, they call it.
No, it's like even more
And
expensive than
any
granite.
man-made, quartz, no.
It's, I don't know.
So anything that's man-made is going to
That
fall in that
falls in the
category
category
of
of
plastic.
plastic.
Correct. Anything man-made is going to fall in
Even
the...
if it's man-made out of stone.
If it's not just stone, then it's going to fall into that category. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So those are our countertops, the sink. Okay, so the sink is a little bit hard, but it's not as hard as we make it out to be. So don't use your sink for 24 hours, okay? Make sure your sink is very clean. Don't use your sink for 24 hours. And then what you want to do is you want to pour hot water over every part of your surface. Now, it's a little tricky, but it's tricky. We think it's tricky because a sink, as opposed to countertop is flat. A sink has angles, right? It has a wall, going around on each side. How do you get those places? So if you actually go ahead, and I wish I should have brought something to pour this into, but when I pour this, guess what? It doesn't pour directly down, right? It actually pours on an arc, right? So all I need to do is actually start over here, start in the middle of the sink and start pouring, and it's going to start pouring, right? I'm not going to do this, but it's going to pour like this. It's going to pour like this. So I basically go over this in this direction, and it actually will hit that side of the wall directly, right? So I basically fill up a kettle, and then I go pouring, and it actually I've hit directly because again, it's not pouring straight down; it's pouring like this, and it therefore will hit the wall of the sink. And I do that in each direction. You're going to take a few kettles, but you do that in each direction, and you're good to go.
Even if it's not a metal sink.
As long as it is one of these, what type of?
I have a metal sink, but what if it's like a soapstone sink or whatever?
So again, it would come back to this discussion about, so we typically use metal, and marble's not going to really be a thing. I mean, porcelain's going to be a real question. Porcelain, you're going to want to put an insert. Typically, most would say you want to put an insert in a porcelain sink. Okay, the faucet. Let's talk about the faucet here. There are different opinions. What I would recommend, based on the Star K, is that you could first just take out, clean it as thoroughly as you can. Just hard. Clean as thoroughly as you can. Most of the schmutz that's in there is just the schmutz that comes into your water, right? Our water is actually, there's a little bit of stuff in it. Okay, that's why you have a filter. And so it's not chametz in the what's it called? The filter, yeah. But you want to clean it as well as possible. If you can unscrew it and clean it very well, that's ideal. Put it back. You don't have to change it. Some people do change the top. They'll change the filter. They'll change the whole top of their faucet. You don't have to do so. What you do need to do, you do need to kasher the faucet itself. So kasher on the top. If you're able to turn it over, you do so as well. If you're not able to turn it over, there's what to rely upon. You don't have to do that either. Yes?
The handheld spritzer, if you have them, is that kasherable?
Yeah, you have to clean it very well. It's hard to clean very well because it has a lot of ridges and whatever it is. But as long as you clean it very well, then you could and should kasher. So Instant Hot or the spritzer that comes out. So you just have to kasher again. You want to clean them very well, not use them for 24 hours, and then pour the hot water over them, and then you're good to go.
Some people put mesh things so that the water goes through
over it, yeah, it's not necessary.
Is that a problem on Shabbos?
Borer, no, because short answer is no. Okay, that is how you kasher. So basically, the way we've finished kashering our kitchen, you don't have to have any foil. You could have foil, by all means. If you feel more Pesach by having foil everywhere, by all means. But the bottom line is that, strictly speaking, none of this should involve any foil. Hopefully not be so stressful. It should be enjoyable. Enjoy your kashering, and we'll pick up.